I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Passports and Poets, conversations about the power of place, the places that change us, and why it matters. I am your co host, Dr. Chick Morgan, and I am speaking to you from our usual studio location in Wimberley, Texas, which is about 35 miles southwest of Austin. And my co host, Rodney Bursiel, our photographer in chief, is not here with me. Lucky Rodney is in the Camargue region in the south of France with our guest, who we're going to hear a lot more about and from, Patrice Aguilar. And he is continuing with his photography with the wild horses. So, Rodney and Patrice, welcome on your beautiful afternoon in the south of France. And Rodney, why don't we start with you and tell us what you're doing there and how you and Patrice started working together.
Right. Yeah, I've been coming here for 4 years now, and I guess it started. I think we've talked about this. We've got a mutual friend, Jonathan Bird, musician, who has a song called "Wild Ponies,"
and who we
and
also interviewed, and we'll attach that
into it.
episode.
Yes, who's been on here before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, his song "Wild Ponies" was one of my favorites. And I remember, talking to him about that and the inspiration for it. And long story short, it led to him inviting me to come up to or over to North Carolina to photograph the wild horses there oh god, drawing a total blank on the area. But anyway, in North Carolina, the wild.
Is that what you're reaching
Well,
for?
but what's the specific area? I can't believe I'm drawing a total blank on it. But I started doing the Outer Banks. Thank you. So,
I started doing in teams, as I said.
Yeah, that's why we don't do this by ourselves.
Right.
But I was doing research on the Outer Banks, and in the middle of that, I somehow stumbled across the horses in Camargue. And so 4 trips later, I guess that was 5 or 6 years ago. This is my 4th trip while I'm here now, and I still haven't been to the Outer Banks. So
sorry, Jonathan.
I saw the white horses running through the water, and I had to do this. And I got over here and fell in love. It really is one of the most magical places. Just this whole experience. And Patrice he's the guy here that, every group that comes through he's the one that, sets up everything with the different ranches. And, what he goes through to find the perfect spots. I mean, every day he's looking at weather and, what location is going to be perfect for, with the weather conditions. Or, like this trip is completely different than my previous, because I mean, it's later in the season, so typically the water levels are down anyway, but because of drought it's been even lower. So he's been getting really creative with his locations and finding different marshes, coming up with different concepts. So this trip has been completely different than what I've done in the past. So
let me just pause there and either Patrice, welcome again.
Welcome.
Rodney,
Thank you.
Describe where you are in the south of France and what is the Camargue region.
Well, we fly in. The easiest route, I guess, is you fly into Marseille, and Camargue is about an hour and a half west, and it's on the Mediterranean. It's all marshland, and I'll let Patrice go into, because Patrice has been doing this for 20 years, so I'll let him give the details on it. But that's that's the Cliff Note version of it. So, but yeah, it's just a beautiful place. I mean, when you think of France, you think of Paris, and down here it's country land, and it's just horses and birds, and it's just gorgeous.
Well, Patrice, welcome. And why don't we start with you by telling us a little bit about how you got involved with the horses and in this part of France, which sounds absolutely beautiful.
I started to work with to photograph the horses, and maybe it was I think it was 20 years ago. Uh, because at this time I just started to be a photographer, and I wanted to do something a bit special. So I saw some pictures of the horses. At this time, it was quite rare to do that kind of pictures. So what I did, I contacted the tourism office in Arles, which is the biggest city close to the Camargue area, and they faxed me because at this time there's no internet. So they faxed me a list with different properties, and I called them one by one, asking if it would be possible to get some pictures of the horses running in the water. So if the rancher will accept to do that for me, just use their horses, and if there are marsh or you have some piece of water where it will be possible to get the horses running. And so one of them accepted, and I made my first pictures with this guy, Michel. And for that time, I just kept going with that photography, and found new places, new ranches, and developed this business.
It sounds like a lot of fun as well as a good business to be in. Rodney, why don't you tell us? This is your fourth time with Patrice to do this.
Yeah, I think it's my fourth.
Okay, well, as you said, there is a time difference, and Patrice does get you up quite early, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But what has it been like for you as a participant? Because you've been a photographer for, I don't know how many, maybe 20 as well. I don't know, or less or more. But now you're coming as a participant in this workshop to this whole new experience. What were some of your first impressions?
Well, just the horses here, they're they're considered feral, and again, that's something else that I want Patrice to address. What makes a Camargue horse. We can talk all about that in a little bit, but yeah, it's one of the oldest breed of horses in the world, and they're here. They're all white. And it's about the only horse you see here. Occasionally you'll see something else, but 99.9% of the horses you see here are all Camargue horses. And just to see this herd of all white horses, it's just beautiful. But they're like I said, they're considered feral. They're not fully wild, but they are, accustomed to humans. And you have these, it's more than just the photographic experience. You're not just off witnessing this. In between runs, the horses come up and interact with you and rub up on you and lick you and try and eat your clothes. And they're just it's such a cool experience. There's just no way to describe it. I've
Yeah,
this,
Patrice,
this
tell us
just
a little more about the nature of the horses. Where did they come from? And Rodney keeps describing them as feral. Um, Tell us about that.
We don't know exactly from where they come from. One thing, it's the Camargue is an island, because you have the Mediterranean Sea in the south, and there is the Rhone River. We just split in two parts in the north of the city of Arles. So you have the main Rhone River on the east part, and the little Rhone River on the west coast. So all of this water do come out to be an island. So it looks that the horses spend a lot of time there on this island. So they are now very well adapted to the harsh conditions they can find there. It's hot in the summer. It could be cold in the winter, especially if there is a north wind called Mistral, very strong and cold wind. It's marshy place, wetland, so they used to walk in the mud. There are a lot of mosquitoes sometimes, so they can resist to all this very harsh condition, and they can live on their own. They are no stable or stuff like this. They live outside all the time.
yeah.
Especially for the female, the mother, they spend their whole life in the wild, in the semi-wild condition, because there are no wild. There's no wild horses in the Camargue. Just they live in semi-wild condition, and the females spend their whole life in the nature, in the wild, just giving birth in the wild as well. Because the Camargue horse is a pure brand now since 1978, and just to be recognized as the Camargue horses, the foals are to born in the wild without any help of the rancher. They just go in the morning and just check how many new ones they can have.
Mm.
So what
I think
is
they
it?
don't need humans anymore.
Yeah. What's the
Probably a
reasoning
good thing.
with the horses for the females? Why is it just the females? Because like when you see these the different horse, what am I trying to say? The walks, where you can go and horseback riding. Are those all males here? And why do they do it that way?
Yeah, because there is a selection of horses. The ranchers select some female to be the mothers. They will be mother all their life. Some stallions are kept just to be a stallion and just reproduce the species. And all the other ones, especially the male, they are gilded and they are used for the tourism. I mean, back riding tour and stuff like this. Horses are very important also in the Camargue because they are the partner of the guardian, the riders. We call guardian the French cowboy. We call them guardian here, and they used to walk with the bulls, the black bulls, because at the beginning, the horses are the partner of the guardian just to walk with the bulls. The guardian at the long time ago, it was just like a shepherd, but for the bulls. So they spend their life.
So the guardians here. I mean, it's considered a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for the farmer, for the rancher. I mean, and there are a lot of guardian who are just amateurs. They just help because they like to ride, they like to be with the bulls, they like to walk with the bulls. So they just help a friend or another rancher just to be on the horse, to be outside. It's part of their traditional stuff.
So how do we get that job?
Oh, I think it's passion, just by passion. Because a guardian will tell you, my riches is not. We don't. You don't. You're not a guardian for the money. You're a guardian because of the passion.
Yeah, because it's not a very well paid job.
No.
Yeah.
They do the riches is just to be there and to be with the horses and the bulls.
Yeah.
And outside in the natural.
So the 20 years that you've been doing this, are there a lot of is it still a lot of the same guardians from 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some were just starting.
Yeah. What's that, Patrice?
I said some of them just start, and I start as well. When I started as well 20 years ago, and they still now in function. I still in the business. Some other one are maybe older now, and they just try to find new ones just to be like a link, just to get going with this business. Mm-hmm. Because they don't sell the business; they just give to another passionate person. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Rodney,
sorry, my English is not perfect.
No,
so
no. It's very good.
There's just a lot to take in about what you're saying. Rodney, I'm curious because I have been a voyeur on so many of your photographic journeys. Take us through what it's like on if there is such a thing as an average day in the south of France. What is it you're doing over there with the horses and the photography? I know we get up at 5.
Yeah.
What happens after that?
I mean,
after you wake up?
Yeah, there is. It is kind of a typical day here. Every day is kind of the same, but your experience is different. But every morning, depending on the location, because some locations are 10 minutes away and others are 30 minutes away. So you typically want to be there right at sunset or shortly thereafter, to get the perfect light.
Mm.
So just depending on what ranch we're going to determines what time we're getting up. Like this morning we wanted to be on the beach before the sun came up because of the style of shoot that we were doing. We're incorporating the sunrise with the horses. So we had to be there at 5 o'clock. Or no, we left at
5:30.
5.
We left at
Yeah,
5. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I had to get up at 4:30 this morning, but then I think tomorrow, I don't even know what tomorrow is, but like yesterday morning, we didn't leave till 6:30, so we got to sleep in. So we go and whatever we're doing with the horses that morning, it's typically about a 2-hour shoot, and then we come back and have breakfast, and then you've got all day to do whatever you want. And
Mm.
I'm still getting turned around from jet lag, so I'm napping. But and there's the town here. You walk into town, there's tons of little restaurants and shops and markets, and so it's just a good time to unwind and relax and just do whatever you want. And then the afternoon, we usually leave about 6:30. Well, again, it depends on the time of the year, because you're catching sunset. So this time of year, while we're here, we're in, what are we in, June?
Oh,
So we,
so light
yeah,
so late.
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, we leave about 6:30 and go do the shoot, and then come back. And like last night, I think we had a 10 o'clock dinner and went to
So
bed at,
civilized.
yeah, went to bed about midnight and got up at 4. So
Mm.
that's a day here.
Have you had different experiences with that kind of schedule in different places over 4 years? What are some of the the things that you so vividly remember, as well as your fantastic photographs, which everybody, including myself, just love? What are some of your most vivid memories about these experiences?
It's really just the main thing for me with the shoots is it's the interaction with the horses. Like I said, it's such a magical thing. I I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I think it shows in the photos. It's
Hmm.
just even my kind of behind the scenes photos of just
Hmm.
being with them. Because they do, like I said, they just today we were shooting on the beach, and I was laying down in the sand dunes, and they're running at us full steam, and they come right up to you, and then right as they see you, they stop and come up, and they'll nuzzle you and kiss you, and it's so yeah, that's I mean it's like every this trip is pretty consistent. It's pretty much it's the same but different,
Hmm.
every year. So
Kind of like coming home, I guess, after so many years
it
of
is.
doing
It
this.
does. It does feel like coming home here. It's just
Mm.
it's so comfortable. But of course, my heritage is French, so if how much you believe in all that, with ancestors' DNA in your body,
Mm.
because I did the first. There've been so many trips that I've gone on where you step off the plane and something doesn't feel right, doesn't quite feel comfortable. And first time here, I stepped off the plane in
Mm.
Marseille, and I felt like I belonged here.
Mm.
It feels
Gotta
so
pay
good.
attention to that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Patrice and I were talking a little bit earlier while you were still waking up, Rodney.
yeah.
Um, I was curious if horses were the only things that he photographed, and you were telling me, Patrice, about some of the other kinds of photography workshops or photography work that you've done. Could you share some of that?
Yeah, I'm mainly a wildlife photographer, so I'm used to go also overseas. I do wildlife photography in France, but I'm used to go also in overseas, so in foreign countries, uh, because I'm working with two French agencies, and I lead French people from France to the different countries. So we have a catalog of trips where we go. So, for instance, I was in Yellowstone National Park for a month in January to do the bison and the wolves in the winter conditions. Then right after that, I went to Uganda to photograph the gorillas and chimpanzees. I will go to Canada and Alaska in August for another month, photograph the Dempster Highway, all the Tombstone National Park, and also the Alaska part will be with a grizzly fishing the salmons in Southeast Alaska in a small town called Ames, Chilkat River.
He sounds as adventurous as you are, Rodney.
Yeah, you're making me look bad.
Yeah. So
I got to step up my game.
We have a good catalog. So yeah, I'm used to go to Kenya, South Africa, Botswana, Tanzania. Went to India, Borneo, Spitsbergen, Iceland. So we have a very rich catalog, and so the good thing when you lead a trip like this is you can make a choice. Okay, this year I want to go there. Next year we go to discover another country. So for instance, next year I know in January we go to Japan. We go to Hokkaido Island just to photograph the wildlife over there in the winter. Because I went to Yellowstone for several years now, so I said, okay, next year I will change a little bit, so I'll go to Japan instead. I know I will go in next April. I will go to India. We go back because I already went there. India to photograph the tigers in Bandhavgarh National Park, and we go to Spitsbergen in August just to do the run trip around the island, but try to photograph the polar bears. So it's as a photographer now, modern pro photographers, you have to try to get incomes from different sources. So organizing workshop in the Provence, which is my place, Camargue and Provence, Camargue is a part of Provence. It's the same. So Camargue, we have the horses. Provence, we have the little hilltop villages. We have the lavender fields. And then I lead trips overseas as well. It's another part of my incomes. I did some books. I sell some pictures also for magazine or just sometimes for hotel as well, just to decorate the rooms or the hall or the office. So it's different now. I think it's quite difficult because you have to get incomes from different sources. It's not easy. But as a guardian, I'm passionate by photo and nature. So for me, it's not like a job. It's a passion. It's something I will do during my holiday or my weekend. So I don't feel I'm working, and I don't think about retirement and things like this. I just I think I'm very lucky about that. I think Rodney is the same because.
Is there one central place where people can find your work or learn about the tours and the workshops that you're giving? Is it a website?
Yeah, go on
how can people find you?
On my website, yeah. So it's there's my name, it's patriceaguilar.com.
Okay, we'll go to Rodney.
On the information.
When we post this, we'll be sure to put that up there. And Rodney, I saw you drooling at tigers and grizzlies and all of those that you haven't gotten to yet.
Well, all these trips that you're talking about, I think I understood. You said that are most of these you're doing on your own on assignment, or are you running these trips with groups, or like
I did for a travel agency because I'm just an entrepreneur photographer. So I cannot organize like a full trip. Propose a package with including my prestation plus the transportation plus the hotel and everything. I cannot do that. I'm not a travel agency myself. So I have to work with a travel agency because it's all about the insurances. You need to be, as a travel agency, you need very strong insurances in case of something can happen with people.
Right.
So
what would go wrong with polar bears?
I think it's good to have, because when we arrive to a foreign country, we have a guide over there, we have instruction, so we know exactly what to do. When we go to Alaska, we know we are in bear country, So we know now what to do because it will be my eighth, maybe 10th trip in Alaska this summer. So we know exactly what to do. We have good equipment because it's a trip where we are partly in the hotel and we stay another part of in a tent in camping.
Yeah.
Just to be able to stay in remote place. So it's very nice because I like to be in a tent at night and just hear just the natural sounds, the wind in the branches, a river, lake, ocean. It's very, for me, it's like it's better than a sleeping pill.
Yeah, that's what I love the most about going over to
It's so that's why it's very important. I think it's hotel is comfortable because you have a good bed, you have a shower, you have everything. It's warm, but staying in the tent, it's very rustic. But you can find another experience. So what we do, because we have a certain type of clients, and some of them are quite old, so they cannot, they couldn't do the trip and spend maybe 14 nights in the tent. So we do 1 night in the tent, 1 or 2 nights in the hotel, and another night in the tent. And generally they like that. Even if when they wake up in the morning after the night in the tent, I think it's backache and stuff like this, but they are quite happy because it's so fun, so much fun.
Yeah.
We just set a fire, you cook on the fire, so it's very, very, very nice.
Marshmallows, s'mores. Maybe they don't do that to the world.
Kind of thing. Sure.
But I
Salmon.
have a question for both of you, and I'd like to start with Patrice. As wildlife photographers, photographing very different kinds of wildlife around the world, and for you, Patrice, over 20 years, and Rodney, for you, we include the underwater stuff, a long time too. Have you noticed, or what have you noticed about any changes in the wildlife environment? We're hearing a lot about climate change and the polar bears and the jungles and the gorillas. What have you personally noticed about what may have changed over the last 10 or 20 years?
I think the bigger thing I saw, it's the number of tourists that you can have now. Because
I'm sorry, what?
The number of people, of tourists you can find in different touristic places. Just for an example, it's in Iceland. I remember my first trip in Iceland was in 1999. And I went there in May. I was there alone. No more people, just a few people.
Really?
I went back. I went back. The last time I went in Iceland was last year in August. It was terrible. And we were still in a good condition. So some friend of mine that went to Iceland for the last maybe 10 years, they told me the same stuff. It's overcrowded now, especially in the touristic place. If you go a bit further in the remote place of the country, it's still okay. But it's overcrowded, and overcrowded means higher prices and higher everything. So it's very uncomfortable to be. I remember a beach in south of Iceland called Geographic, and it's a beach where the people are used to photograph the big how do you call that ice shape, on the beach.
Yeah,
like a big ice cube. Yeah,
the glaciers.
And now you cannot make a photo without the people in the field. It's impossible because there are people everywhere. So it's very hard now, different depending on where you go. If you go to Africa, especially in East Africa, when you stay in the four-wheel drive in the jeep, and the drivers, they don't talk each other and they'll just exchange the information and share the information. And as soon as they find a leopard or lion or something a bit special, you can have maybe 20 to 30 cars coming around. So it's something that I think it's more rare to see in South Africa or Botswana, because they limit the number of cars around an animal, 4 to 5 car maximum, which is, I think, better. But
yes, I want to cut in here because this has been something that's been heavy in my conversations lately because of my recent trips to to East Africa, and that's one of the main things that we encountered. And it's good to hear that you're saying in some areas they are restricting it, but like in the Mara, that was my experience, and I was there at the tail, with right as things were starting to open up after COVID, and so I was there during the off season, and people still weren't traveling yet because of what we're dealing with at the moment, and
Yeah.
so it was this was supposed to have been a very low traveled time, and we're in the Mara, and it was, yeah, exactly what you're saying, is all these trucks, these drivers are interacting and telling each other what's going on. So if there's something good, it's for the tourist, it's great because it's almost you're guaranteed you're going to find
Yeah.
everything that you're putting on your bucket list. But when that happens, then you've got, you're saying 30. There was a family, or it was four brothers, four cheetahs that were hunting, and I finally told my driver to leave because I didn't want to be
Yeah.
part of it anymore. Because I counted at least 40 trucks that were chasing these and circling them, and it felt so awful. And I don't honestly, I don't understand why these animals stay in these areas. I mean, maybe they've gotten adapted to it, but it feels so intrusive, and I don't know why there aren't more regulations. I know it's all about money, but why don't they restrict the number of people allowed into the park, or the number of cars, or not allow the interaction, and you just have these random experiences with animals, going and finding them on your own instead of just, it's almost like you're in a zoo at the
Yeah,
Mara.
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I think it's just about money, because if you go to South Africa and you find an animal, because in South Africa you have the private reserve. It's just
Mhm.
most of them are around the Kruger National Park, and if you go in such area, as soon as you find a leopard, maybe uh, you it just allow four cars to be around the animal at the same time, and you don't have to block him if it is chasing. You cannot be between him and his prey.
Mm.
You have just to leave more space. So I think it's a better way to observe the wildlife, just to watch the wildlife. And in East Africa, it's the worst, I think. In Uganda, when you go to see the gorillas, as soon as you find the family, the group, you just have an hour to spend with
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
You cannot stay anymore, and after that, it's finished for the day.
yeah. So yeah,
So it's a process for something they call habituation. They want to habituate the gorillas to see people, but after an hour, you leave. You have guide over there, you have trackers, you have different people, and they say, okay, it's time to go. And so and the family just keep going in his life. So keep moving. And when you stay an hour with them, you don't feel them very uncomfortable or just tracked. They are very normal. They do their life. They
yeah.
just used to see people.
I
But
just
with 40 cars around,
myself.
you cannot. I think with 40, most of the time in East Africa, when you find a leopard or a lion like this and surrounded by 40 cars, most of the time it finish under a car, just go in the shade, and nobody can see it anymore.
Mhm.
So
So
yeah,
yeah,
it could be. I think it could be a problem.
So what's your fear about the worst outcome of this if it goes unchecked, if it doesn't have beginning to have some regulation around it? What can happen to the animals?
You mean
I
if
just
they
don't want to
are?
go there.
You mean if there
so
are too many people around them?
If it just keeps going at the rate you were talking about Iceland in 1999, but if you apply that to what's happening in Africa and some of these other places with the vast increase of tourists, how much further can that go?
I don't think they will increase, because I think we reach a limit. People, 40 cars is already too much. So more will be totally crazy. But I think you also have to think about, because I know some people now are just we cannot fly anymore with the plane. It's just about the carbons in the air, the global warming and everything. But what happened during the pandemic? It was very good for the wildlife for sure, because there are no more people. But it wasn't good for the people, local people that need tourists to walk, especially in Africa as well. What happened over there during the COVID pandemic? It was they just started to poach again. You know, poach. They kill the animals again.
Unfortunately, yes.
Poach, yeah. They try to do that again because they need to eat to feed the family. So we have to find a balance between too much people in the place and nobody, and just doing it with some limit probably. But we cannot give up everything and just we don't fly anymore, we don't do this, we don't do that. But it's not easy.
I think we've talked. I guess it was with James, or we've talked about this on a different podcast too. Yeah, it's kind of it's a catch-22 on how do you do this, because obviously tourism is what funds things over there to protect the wildlife, but then you get too many people and then you're just creating a whole different type of harm. So it's finding that balance, and just I hate saying restrictions, but that's what it's come down to. You've got to do something to protect these places, because they're talking about the Mara and how it's the Mara is dying because of so many cars going through there. Like a lot of these parks, they've got dedicated road space, and you have to stay on the roads. And the Mara, you can go about wherever, and you don't know what you're running over. There's more than just lions and elephants and giraffes there. You've got dung beetles and all these other things that are so important to the ecosystem, and you kill all that, then it's just like we've talked about so many times, everything has a purpose. And if we don't take care of it, we're gonna create a whole nother problem.
A sentence like this is who cut a flower kill a star. Probably this formula, but it's a bit of this, because a small insect is just nothing for most of the people, but it's very important for the alimentary for the food chain.
But it's like the mosquitoes here,
come on,
it's very
give me the purpose of the mosquitoes here, the size of footballs. So.
But
there is one, I presume.
There's so many birds here that I'm sure that the mosquitoes are a big part of their diet.
That because of the mosquito, there are so many birds. No more mosquitoes, no more birds.
And that's the other thing that we haven't talked about here is the bird populations are ridiculous. I mean, it's got a huge flamingo population, the egrets and swans, and I mean, Patrice can elaborate on that too. But the birds are and I'm not a birder, and I'm just in awe of the birds here.
I think Camargue is a very famous place for the birds because it's a wetland, and the birds are used to go at least twice a year, the spring and during the migration, spring and fall, autumn. So we have a lot of people coming here just for the bird watchers. They want to see birds. Actually, spring we have a lot of bee eaters coming from Africa. We have rollers, ibis, different kinds. As they call it, another one. So many birds here.
And the flamingos.
It's another part of the tourism stuff.
Or the flamingos, are they resident or do they migrate? Or
we have a population that stay there all year round. There is another population that comes just for the winter, and another population that come just from the first spring, just to breed.
Yeah.
But if you can come whenever you want, you will see flamingos in Camargue.
Yeah.
That would never occur to me. Did you know that before you were there, Rodney? Did you ever think about flamingos in the Camargue?
I honestly don't remember. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't something that I was seeing. I was strictly here for the horses. I think when I got here, it was one of those. Was that a flamingo? And what is so cool too is we're out in these marshes, and you don't really think about it, but off in the distance you see this giant flock of birds, and being in the States, it can whatever that may be, whether it's if it's geese migrating or ducks, but here it's flamingos. It's just to Patrice that probably that seems normal, but for us to think of a flock of flamingos flying over is just it's so surreal. And I've got one of my favorite photos of I've got the horses running through and this giant flock of flamingos in the background, and you don't notice it. You just see birds. But when I tell
people,
when I tell people that they're flamingos, they just it's
like,
a whole
come on, Rodney.
And here in Camargue, it's the greater flamingo. Is the different? It's a different one than the one that you can find in South Africa, in Africa or South America. The greater flamingos that we have in Camargue are taller, and only the wings are pink. The lesser flamingos in Africa or in South America, it's shorter and more pink, totally pink. Yeah. I think it's nicer. But the one we have here, it's very big, and when you see it from a far distance, it's quite white, almost white. They look white. Yeah. It's just when they spread the wings that say, oh, there is some pink on this bird.
Mm-hmm.
Patrice, is there any place in the globe, on the globe, around the globe, outside of the globe, that you haven't been and that you really...
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, well, what are some places you still hope to photograph? Animals, wildlife.
There is a place where I would like to go. It's Hawaii. See the volcano. Hawaii.
Is where? Hawaii.
Oh,
Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the Big Island, just to see the volcano. I have had a good experience with volcano in Sicily on the Etna. I photographed an eruption in 2001. And then I also, in 2002, I went back there and I went to Aeolian Islands. And I went on the Stromboli, which is another smaller volcano, and I photographed also. So Hawaii, it's a place I would like to go, never been. What else? Australia, never been there. New Zealand. Japan will be my first trip in January. So yeah, there are so many places.
But let's talk about what about the tigers? That's something that's been popping up for me lately too. I've been wanting to do that. Where exactly are you going? And because a couple other photographers that I follow that have done that, and it sounds like it's as far as spotting them, it's not like coming here and the horses, they're there. The tigers, there's a pretty good chance.
The tigers are white. They are white animal, but it's there is a national park in the north of India, the Rajasthan, called Bandhavgarh. And I think it's a park where you have very good chances to see the tiger there, because it's the same that in Africa. You go on a jeep with a guide and driver, and they talk each other. They just get information from each other. So as soon as a tiger is found, it's a bit like in South Africa. You have a lot of jeeps coming.
Yeah.
So the thing is, try to find it first. Be the first to find it, so you can spend some time with the animal without anybody around. And after that, I think after a while, maybe 10 minutes, the driver has to call the other one. So when you find it, this is the same in South Africa. If you find a leopard or the tiger in India, if you find one, your car find one, You have 10 minutes to spend with him, and then the driver has to call the other one. Just share the information, which is good because.
Well, it's, you say that's good. I want to hear your perspective on that because I'm curious. Because I mean, to me, that sounds, that's what we were talking about a minute ago. Is they have to report it, but that's inviting all this traffic in. So why? What's the reason for having to do that?
I think it's because when you go to Africa, tourists, not the photographer, but when the tourists go to Africa, the goal is to get the big five.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they just see it very far away, they don't care. With a very ugly noon light, very white light, very ugly. But they don't care. They just want to see. If they see just the tail of the leopard, okay, they can check. Done.
Wow.
Leopard is done. And so they want to see the big five. And I think in India the same. The driver absolutely want his people in his car, the people in his car, to see the tiger. I think it's probably maybe about getting a good tip or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't see any tiger, they will be disappointed. And I think the tip will be less.
Yeah. But
so
that is true.
They are very crazy. Yeah, I saw some stuff in India, but totally crazy. All the cars around the tiger, and the tiger was just lying in the ground. And when you just stand and try to live, all the jeeps started at the same time. It was like a race start. And there was people on some jeeps that were still standing, just taking photos. They almost fell down when they started because they want to do so quick to be first, to be the first one to follow the tiger. That the people almost fell down from the car and everything. It was the mess. So, that's why I thought to my driver, just slow down and check everything before to start. Check that all the people are just sat on the seat.
So have you done the Great Migration? Have you done the migration?
Yeah, I did it from Tanzania and from Kenya as well.
Yeah, because that was. Yeah, I've done just just out in the plains, but for the first time I did the river crossings. Yeah. And that's what that was like. And it was so insane. It was like Mad Max. And I had no idea, because you go up to the river where you see where the wildebeest are about, they're contemplating crossing. And, sometimes you can sit there for hours waiting for them to do this. And the Jeeps have to be so far back. But the second that first wildebeest touches the water, the Jeeps are allowed to move in, and it's just
because they want to be the first
take
one.
off. And everybody, I almost fell out because I had no idea they were going to do that.
No, but it's terrible. It's incredible. But because the driver want his people to be the first, to the very well located, just to be on the right place, just to see them and photograph them. But they are so decided in head that they don't think about the people in the car. They just go straight. Oh, I want to be the first one. I want my people to be just on the right place. But they don't check. They don't check if people are okay just to move.
So I always think about those kinds of experiments as being dangerous. We talk about that, Rodney, with the animals, but it sounds like it's personally dangerous just standing up in the
it's the humans.
You can be.
You've always said that, Rodney. It's always the people.
You can be hurt because no, with the animals you can be hurt because you can fall down from the car, or your head can hit something in the car because it's so quick.
Yeah.
Well, you also mentioned you do lavender tours.
Lavender.
I think sounds.
It's more quiet. It's more quiet. You just have only bees in the field, so they're quite
bees. Okay.
Bees, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's to me. That sounds lovely.
I like to be. I like to be in the lavender field. It smells lavender in the air. You have the bees sound all around. It's very quiet, early in the morning or late in the evening with a beautiful light. It's very peaceful.
And that's coming up pretty soon. You said end of June?
Yeah, we'll be the next week probably, in the next 2 weeks. It was so we probably start to. It could change every year because depending on the weather. But we have quite hot weather now here. So I think it will probably be a bit in advance this year. That we bloom in advance a little bit.
Well,
So I didn't check yet. So I will go there. No, I will go next year.
What?
Yeah,
Sorry.
So that for sure that needs to be your slogan: be lions, tigers, bears, and lavender. You know.
You had me at lavender. Rodney knows I'm adventurous in spirit, but not necessarily with my legs. I love the stories, but no, that really sounds wonderful. And Patrice, you have so literally been all over the world, appreciating wildlife and nature in so many forms.
Yeah, I think it's
it
we
never
have
gets
to.
old. So.
Yeah, I like to be nature. I like to inform people about the beauty of the natural world, of the nature, and just about the urgency, or the emergency. You have to protect it and do what we have. So it's nice, I think, to show the beauty of the world, just to get people thinking about it, and just maybe have like what do you call that? Sparking? No. Just the people to realize that the environment is very nice, but it's very fragile. And so we really have to be careful and take care of it, not only for us, but also for the next generation, our kids. And so it's good to get a lot of money for certain people. They just think about money, doing money, but I don't remember who said that you cannot eat money. So if there is nothing to eat on the earth anymore, you will stay with your money and your coins and your bill, and that's it.
And Rodney, that's of course what you do also so beautifully with your photography. And what we are really happy to be doing with so many of our podcasts is here's the beauty, here's the incredible look at nature. Now let's talk about if it's threatened and how it's threatened and what we might be able to do about that. I'm looking forward to your new horse photographs, Rodney. We're going to see a bunch of new ones.
Well, I've posted a couple already. I put I it's so funny because on this I'm out there. Of course, you're in water, and I've got two camera bodies and then my iPhone, and I'm trying to use everything all at the same time, and I really just need to focus
How's that
on
working
one.
for you?
But well, I'm managing. But it's but yeah, like this time I took my I've got a GoPro, but the iPhones now seem so much better, just so much easier for editing, and so I had my old GoPro tripod. I pulled the GoPro out of it and duct taped my iPhone to the tripod instead
The high tech
of in
stuff,
front
right?
of me.
Duct tape, yay.
while I'm photographing. But I posted that, and that was where that's over at is it Penn Forecat, where that's one of my favorite places. Of course, right now with this time of the year, the water was way low what I'm used to, but it just the sunsets over there are just ridiculous. Like to go, well, you've been kicked off of Facebook, but
I have, yes.
go,
Patrice doesn't know that, but
well,
I have seen none of this, Rodney. Instagram's
I'll
what
send
we do.
you I'll send you the video, but just
Okay,
the
yeah, I can't
sunset, the
wait.
clouds, and the colors, and then the horses running through, and it's just that's the definition of why I come here every year. Just that 10-second video sums up.
Do you all have another shoot this evening?
Yeah, what are we doing this evening? I think we gotta doing a marsh.
We're going to marsh again, yeah, a new place that you don't know yet, because I started to walk in this place for just 2 years now during the COVID, because when we being able to move again a little bit, I take benefit of this time just to try to find new places. So I found a new one, which is I love that because it's surrounded by the reeds and trees and everything. So it's nice in the spring because it's green, and it's nice in the fall because it's brown and red and yellow. So it's a very nice place. You will see that.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of horses just running there with a lot of splashes,
Yeah, and
Wow.
a lot of
something
action.
new we're doing this year that I don't know if you how is it new for you, but it's new for me. But the horse is running through the dust. I don't know. Is that a for just because of this time of the year, or is that something?
Yeah, it's because to get this, I love doing that because it's very spectacular.
Yeah,
But I think it's you have to have different conditions to do that. You are first to get nice weather with the sunset because you need the dust to be golden. If it is overcast, it doesn't work the same. You need the condition to be very dry because if it's rained 2 or 3 days before, it's over. You cannot do anymore because there's no dust, and you get the horses running in the mud. So
yeah,
it's terrible.
Hmm.
So, but
Different
when it's
experience.
yeah, I think we will do that tomorrow, and tomorrow I think will be hot and dry and with a nice sunset. So sunset is better than sunrise also because most of the time early in the morning it could be you can have dew, dew, DEW,
Mhm.
yeah,
dew,
Mhm.
and so it just stuck the dust on the ground.
yeah,
But after a full day of heat, so it means in the sunset in the evening, there is so dusty that you cannot see the horses anymore. So they just appear through the dust at a moment you don't know exactly where. It's not really easy even for to focus because sometimes the focus just cannot find the subject. So you can do
yeah,
that. You maybe you have to do that manually. Just try to expect a place where they will come out and just manually just focus on this point and wait for them if there is it will be the right place. Uh, but it's very spectacular. You will see that tomorrow, and I love that. I love to do that. So I hope it will be a good session.
yeah. I'm
Well,
even more
Rodney,
excited about this shoot now.
And take some
yeah,
protection for the camera because plastic
you
bag or
have
something because
Yeah,
dust will be everywhere.
yeah,
you have more adventures, Rodney, and we'll look forward to hearing about that. Patrice, I would like to thank you, and I know Rodney and I both want to thank you so much for making this possible, and for Rodney giving up some of your nap time. I know that's
yeah.
that's important to you. But thank you, and it's such a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to hearing
Thank
more
you to
about
you.
you in the years to come. Thanks
Yeah.
to you.
Thanks.
We would also like to thank Rupert Neve Design, who has generously contributed some of the equipment for our podcast very generously. We want to thank Donovan Frankenreiter for our intro and our outro music. We want to thank our video producer as we take this video, and we will be posting the video version of our podcast on YouTube under Passports. Yes, Passports and Poets podcast. You can find, I think this will be our fourth one. We'd also like to thank our local hometown radio station, KWVH 94.3. You can find them also on Wimberley Radio. What is it? Wimberley Valley Radio.org, where we are rebroadcast this podcast from 3 to 4 on Wednesday Central Time, and you can also find us in the archives. You can also find all of our episodes over the last 2 years in our passportsandpoets.com website, and we are on Apple and Spotify and wherever you find your podcast. We want to thank Brock Glenn Thomas, who is our audio producer and our radio producer. And we'd like to thank Dylan Roberts, who is our video producer. Our staff is growing and we're doing exciting things. Most of all, we would like to thank all of you, our listeners, for tuning in again for Passports and Poets, conversations about the power of place, the places that change us, and why it matters. Until next time.